You know, it's amazing how we have these ideas that if we just tell the story, everyone will flock to the story and things will change. In fact, it's amazing to me how many organizations start just from a story. Now, that's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just, well, it's a thing. It's a thing that says, I believe that what happened to me, good, bad, or otherwise, could happen to you, good, bad, or otherwise. And there's some truth to that. In fact, in the world of probabilities, if I were to say, if I ride a bicycle down a hill too fast and lose control, I'm probably going to scrape up my hands and knees and maybe even part of my face. And so the lessons that I learned about riding a bicycle down the hill too fast without maintaining some braking and maintaining the balance of where my body is over the front wheel and the back wheel, those lessons are very valuable for you. Because the things that I learned when I made that mistake could prevent you from making the same mistake. The things that I learned, having lived through that pain, could, well, prevent you from living through the same pain. And so my story becomes very, very valuable to you. If there's any chance whatsoever that your life will duplicate mine or replicate my choices, that my life has some relevance to you would obviously be important in that factor. If the grand extent of all of the things that I've done in my life have never left the scope of my living room, then the insights, the input, the value of my story is going to be significantly different than if I'm a world traveler who's built explosive devices or gone off to war or saved dying humans from starvation or disease or combat. Because each of those different elements brings another texture to the story. But even then, we have this reality that we've talked about before. It's the E plus R equals O. It's the event in your life, the incident, the moment, the great joy or great disaster that comes upon you, the event, the E in your life, plus how you respond to that moment. That's what equals your outcome. I may experience exactly the same event as you, and from that event, I may find courage and passion and drive and consistency to push through in life, to become a fighter. I may be a victim of someone else's stupidity, a victim of cancer, a victim of a storm, and realize that I've now found the fervor to fight back. I will be better prepared for the next hurricane. I will be better prepared for the next earthquake. I'll be better prepared for the next wildfire or tornado, because I will not be found a victim to the natural circumstances of storms again. I'm just not going to allow it to happen. And that's a choice. That's the response that I have to an event in my life. Now, there are many who've said, that's enough of that nonsense. I'm not living in a hurricane area again. That's enough of that nonsense. I'm not living in a wildfire area again. I'm moving. That's enough of that nonsense. I'm not living in a place where tornadoes can come or earthquakes can come. I'm not living in a high crime area. I'm done. I'm out. I'm moving. And that response to that event or incident, completely different. And as you see those different responses, as you see how people react, two people in the same environment, two people in the same event, two people in the same incident, but with completely different responses to it, then you have to ask yourself this question. Is the response they had the response I want? If I'm going to follow that expert, that guru, that storyteller through this process of recovery or healing or change or challenge, do I trust that The response they had, I could imitate. That the results they had, the final outcome they had, that's something I want. If I say I love my home on the coast, and the expert that I find whose story best resonates with me or best touches my heart or is best produced, that by watching that story I realize really the only solution to losing everything that I love to storms is to leave the coast. Is that a decision that I'm ready to follow? In my own life, my addiction, the problems that I brought into my marriage, for the first 10 years, it created a lot of friction. Now, our story is not alone. My addiction, her reaction, her responses, our controversies, our arguments within our marriage, we're not different than anybody else's marriage, maybe a different context. But we've now been married 23 years. We're 13 years past that conflict. Not to say we have no conflict. Obviously, we do. I love to eat at Wendy's. She doesn't like to eat at Wendy's. That's a conflict. That's a pretty big deal, too. I'm kidding. But there are conflicts in marriage that some people look at the relationship that my wife and I had in that first 10 years, and they're like, she was nuts for staying. I would have ran the first time he said or the first time he did. I would have been out of there. And so Karen's book, The 5 Battle Positions of a Happy Wife, it's a set of solutions. It's a journal, a study guide for how to take a stand in your marriage when anybody else would have went, nope, 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 no, thank you. I'm done. I'm out. I quit. I'm leaving the beach. I will not live where storms like that are coming again. I refuse that battle. But you know as well as I do, there are those people who the storm comes and they say, not only am I not leaving the beach when the hurricane is over, I'm going to stand here and stare down the hurricane. I'm going to board up the windows. I'm going to move all my nice possessions to the second story. But I'm not giving up because of the storm. I'm not leaving because the storm is coming. I'm going to stay here and ride out the storm because I think what's coming after is better than what's now. Karen stayed in our marriage against the storm, stayed in our marriage against the odds, stayed in our marriage against all of the struggle and all of the strife and all of the fighting and all of the arguing and all of the loud voices because she stared down the storm. Now, will her solution work for everybody? I believe it could work for everybody. I believe it's the kind of solution that if applied, it works. I also believe, though, that there are people who look at the outcome of her solution and say, that's not the outcome I want. That really is the choice. The event plus your response equals the outcome. Now, I spent 25 years addicted. And as I began to break free of that more than 13 years ago, that process was annotated very clearly. What I learned, what I discovered, what I walked through, the way that I overcame addiction in my life is very clearly outlined in the 5 battle strategies of a victorious warrior. And it's been read by a dozen or so people in the proofing process, and many of them have come back and said, wow, I didn't realize I still had struggles in this area or that area. And it's not a book about porn. It's not a book about sexual addiction. It's a book about becoming victorious over whatever it is that holds you down. It's a book about becoming a victorious warrior, learning to win the war within. That's what this book is really about. Whatever kind of addiction you struggle with, whether it's control, or it's pornography, or it's alcohol, or it's drugs, it's workaholism, it's self-defeatism, it's self-loathing, whatever that addiction is. This book has solutions for it. But I'm going to ask you the same question. Do you look at the end results that I found and say, those are the results that I want. That's the outcome I want. The events of my life, plus the responses that I applied, the solution that I applied, produced the outcome that I live in now. If you look at that outcome and go, that's kind of where I want to go, then this book provides solutions to get you there. If you look at that outcome and go, no, I wouldn't want that kind of life for me, well, then this book probably isn't going to take you where you want to go, because it is the process that I walk through to find the results that I have now, the outcome that I have now, to live in the life that I have now. And if that's not the life you want, this is not the solution for you. And I understand that. So let me ask you this question, though. As you've experienced those events in your life that kind of outline what you've been through, the good, the bad, and the ugly, can you look at the events in your life and say, well, you know what? I have patterned a solution. I have found a way to deal with the loss of my father, the divorce of my parents, the movement from our home, the changes in my life that came about from the last hurricane that came through. And I have solutions that I believe if other people applied them, they wouldn't crash their bike going downhill and scrape up their knees and their elbows and perhaps their face. If they would apply the solutions that I have employed in my life, then they could have a different outcome. Even if they experience the same events, their response, the solution that I found, would change the quality of your life. I believe everyone has a story. I'm thoroughly convinced of it. If you're a human being and you live on this planet, chances are you have a story. About 99.999% chance that you have a story of some event in your life, great or horrid, that telling that story could change the lives of others. But are you ready to tell that story? Are you healed enough that on the surface you can tell that story? You can find the power to be honest, to be authentic, to be transparent with others and say, this is what I fought against. This is what I lost to. This is what I won to. This is how I won. This is how my life was blessed. This is the favor I experienced. This is the tragedy that I experienced. And have you found solutions that you could transfer to others? Things that they could apply in their own life that would make their life better? If the answer to that is yes, then you have a story worth hearing. And I'd love to hear it. Send some comments in the bottom of this post on YouTube or on Facebook and tell me your story. And if your story is a story of transforming grace, we'd love to have you on the program. And if your story has become a launched ministry that's changing the lives of people all over the world, then get busy sharing that story. But I want you to know that your story should be a solution well prepared. Your story should be an answer for people that they could apply to their life and find the similar outcome that you have found. That they can look at the event in their life and respond the way you responded and apply that wisdom to their tragedy. Apply that wisdom to repeated blessing or favor. If you have a story like that, I'd love to know about it. And if you have a story like that that will change lives, we'd love to help you share it. Prepare your story and prepare to change lives. I'm J Loren Norris. You've been watching Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.